ما تنساش تعمل اشتراك في القناة. يلا بينا.
Well, probably the dumbest thing I've ever seen anyone do with a power tool is drill through the hand.
You always want to use the proper power tool for the job.
Power tools, we gotta have them. There's just no other way to do it.
But you're never going to get away scot-free if you don't use the right tool for the job. Something's going to happen.
Portable power tools are very much a part of our everyday working life. In fact, we spend so much time with them, sometimes we forget that they have the potential for serious personal injuries. In the next few minutes, we're going to show you some portable power tool accidents in which people were injured because of their mistakes. But we are also going to hear from a group of experienced maintenance persons who have worked successfully for years without an accident. Hopefully, their knowledge and experience will help prevent portable power tool accidents.
Portable power tools can be driven by a variety of energy sources, predominantly pneumatic and electrical. But regardless of their power source, they demand our continued respect, because if we're not vigilant, we can become too comfortable, too complacent with our tools. And when that happens, we leave ourselves open to electrocution, cuts, embedded particles in our skin and eyes, and burns.
We can protect ourselves from these injuries by keeping these 3 points in mind.
Always choose the right tool for the job and follow the manufacturer's instructions for use. Maintain power tools in a safe condition and always wear the appropriate personal protective equipment for the job. And finally, and possibly the most important, understand how to use the tool correctly and be authorized for each task you undertake.
Everyone's day begins somewhere, and at some point we're called upon to fix something, install new equipment, or just follow a regular maintenance schedule. And more than likely, it's going to require a portable power tool.
If you use them right, you can get the job done and go home.
If you treat them properly, you'll get better results.
When deciding on which tool is right for the job, we have to make sure that 2 things are true.
1, that we're trained and authorized to use that tool, and 2, is the tool suitable for the job, something Ralph Johnson should have been aware of. Ralph Johnson was in the process of installing additional supply lines on the existing system. The supports had been hung, and he thought he had everything he needed at the site to finish the job. All that remained was to mount the pressure gauge. After marking the mounting hole positions, he discovered he had left the drill bits in the shop. The bit in the drill motor was designed for wood. Had Ralph returned to the shop for the correct bit, a bit designed for steel, he probably wouldn't have been injured. But applying excessive force on the tool, combined with placing his hand in danger, contributed to his accident.
Because you're never going to get away scot-free if you don't use the right tool for the job. Something's going to happen.
Accidents with portable drills can be avoided if we follow a few safe work practices.
Avoid placing your hand or other body parts in harm's way. Be aware of drilling blindly into unknown areas which may contain electrical cables or other potential hazards. And always remember personal protective equipment in the form of safety glasses and face shields.
Battery-operated tools are increasingly being found on the job, and we need to understand the rules that apply to them.
Even though the electrical hazards have been greatly reduced with battery-operated tools, the other hazards still remain basically the same. Always follow your company's policy for the proper disposal of your NiCad batteries.
Well, shortcuts is probably the cause of 90-some% of the accidents. And then it's because of it takes too long, it's inconvenient, it's too far, it's too much up and down to go and get the right tool to do the job. And so I look at my tools that I've got with me and say, now, what can I make do that?
Victor Rivera, maintenance mechanic, was assigned to remove old conduit from the finish area. Using a portable bandsaw, he had worked without incident all day. And now, as his shift was about to finish, he was rushing to complete the job. The portable bandsaw, a relatively safe tool and sometimes called a portaband, is like many other tools in that there are work procedures that must be followed if we're to avoid personal injury. Victor was about to violate several of those work procedures. Trying to finish the work before the shift was over, Victor decided not to go for a taller ladder. Instead, he decided to just make do.
I didn't think about safety as I was coming up as an apprentice. But I had a coworker cut his finger off, and I immediately realized that, hey, I need to pay attention to this.
A wide variety of tasks can be performed with grinders and sanders. They can be powered by air or by electricity. We all use sanders, either belt or disc. Take care when using these tools, as the abrasive surfaces are exposed.
When using the tool, keep it away from your body and keep clothing clear of moving parts. Dust-type masks are a good idea, and if the material is toxic, respirators are mandated. As with all eye and face hazards, safety glasses and a face shield should be worn.
Be aware of the grindings thrown off by the grinder, because as Alan Myers discovered, they can be a real problem. All that remained was to remove parts of the old system by grinding off the rusted stubs. Ignoring his better judgment about housekeeping and cleaning up chemical spills, he tried to clean up the spill with a shop rag. The grindings ignited the rags.
Always make sure the area is free of combustibles and flammables, and make sure a fire extinguisher is standing by, and that you have secured all work permits.
This maintenance mechanic works with grinders every day and offers this advice.
And before you use any grinder, always check your wheel first. If this thing's chipped or cracked, throw it away and get another one. The same thing goes for your safety clip and your air hose. It's got to be there. This hose comes loose, it could beat you to death before you turn the air off. Before using an electric grinder, make sure it's not locked in the on position before you plug it in.
And choosing the correct grinding wheel for the type of material being worked is very important.
Always make sure you choose one that's designed for the material you're cutting. Aluminum and brass will build up in this steel cutting blade and cause it to break. So you have to choose one that's designed for it, like this one.
And always make sure the abrasive wheel or disc is secure. Unsecured, loose cutters and wheels can be thrown from the grinder.
Portable tools present similar safety hazards as stationary tools, performing the same functions, but because of their mobility and portability, have increased opportunity for contact with the operator's body.
And as this man discovered while crating a piece of equipment for shipping, the tools may differ, but the safety rules don't. James Morgan, longtime mechanic and welder, was hastily cutting 2x6s to length. He was adding shipping material to the water pump that was to be picked up that afternoon. Although James was qualified to use the saw, he was a better mechanic than a carpenter. When the guard caught on the end of the board, James decided that it would be okay to just tie the guard out of the way. The guard cleared the end of the wood, but the blade bound up and kicked back.
Kickback is the result of improper operation of the saw. It is a sudden reaction to a bound-up blade. This maintenance person offers his advice.
Before cutting, always ensure that the guard is operating properly. Ensure that the guard does not hang and it returns to the resting position. Also, never tie back a guard and leave the blade exposed.
And this very important rule to follow.
Before changing the blade on your circular saw, you should make sure that you have exclusive control over the power plug. Here on your new saw blade, you can see that the maximum RPM for this blade is 9,400.
Always select the proper blade for the material being worked, and make sure the speed marked on the blade is at least as high as the no-load RPM on the saw's nameplate.
Before making a cut, one of the first things you want to do is ensure that The item to be cut is properly secured. Another is to check your area to be sure you have no tripping hazards, and above all else, you would like to make sure that your power cord is not in the path of your cut.
When used properly, power tools are very safe and effective for doing your job.
A tool that has many uses, the reciprocating saw. It's equally at home cutting wood, metal, or plastic, and by design is simple and safe to use if proper procedures are followed.
You need to understand the operation and be familiar with the tool before you start using it.
When making a plunge or pocket cut, make sure the blade is designed for this purpose. And if making a blind cut, check for hidden wires, pipes, and other obstructions that could contribute to an injury.
If our tools are to remain safe, we have to inspect them regularly for operating defects and head off any potential on-site breakdowns that could lead to an injury.
OSHA requires that all portable tools be inspected on a periodic basis. But you, as the user of the tool, it's important for you to inspect the tool prior to its use. And the things that you need to inspect for: the damaged cord, damaged plug, damaged tool itself, broken body, and you always want to check for proper operation of the tool prior to beginning to use.
Every company has its own system of identifying the last inspection date of the tool. If you're unsure, ask your supervisor.
Extension cords allow us to extend the range of portable corded electric power tools.
Even on a new extension cord such as this, it should always be inspected prior to its use. So I'm looking for any damage to the cord itself, any cuts, any nicks, any abrasions, any damage to the plugs, and you definitely want to check to make sure that you do have a good ground plug.
Working in and around the plant, cords and air lines can become a problem. Many times we must work in areas not designated as production areas, and we need to be aware of producing potential safety hazards. Keep power cords and air lines out of harm's way, and safely away from people and moving equipment. When using cords or hoses, beware of placing them in contact with nails, bolts, or other sharp edges. Valerie Spencer was rerouting the fresh water lines in the caustic storage area to the opposing side of the diked area. After removing the old PVC lines, she moved the equipment to the new location. Valerie had routed the extension cord from a receptacle in the storage building through a hole in the wall. The cord was caught by the sharp metal, and when Valerie yanked the cord, the sharp metal scraped the insulation from one of the conductors.
She would have been just fine, unharmed, if she had remembered just one safety device: the ground fault circuit interrupter. The ground fault circuit interrupter is a life-saving device when used with power tools, extension cords that incorporate a ground wire.
It's always important that you test the ground fault circuit interrupter prior to use. Always follow the manufacturer's test instructions each and every time. Remember, this is a life-saving device.
Be sure to effectively ground all electrical tools, except double insulated tools which bear this symbol, and battery-powered tools. And always make sure the ground pin is in place when using grounded equipment.
Compressed air hoses conduct power to air tools much as extension cords supply power to electric tools. And, as you might suspect, they have their own potential hazards.
One of the things that you must do when you're using pneumatics is pay close attention to your hose. Make sure it's in good condition, make sure your fittings are well attached, clamp firmly in place so they will not blow off. A whipping hose can hurt you. Also, you need to make sure that your hose is of the proper pressure rating for the tool you're using and the proper size. Make sure your fittings are compatible with each other. This particular fitting is a CP. The CP fitting is a twist lock, and then you install your keeper pin. One thing you need to always remember when you're dealing with air is never use a blow-off for your personal clothing. And you must always, if you're blowing off the workbench or workplace, use a 30 psi max nozzle.
Tony Maurice, shop maintenance person, had just finished making a half-dozen small pieces for the production line. Teddy Odell, his friend for over 10 years, was working at the arbor press. Compressed air, in many ways safer than electricity for powering tools, can be hazardous, a fact that Tony had been warned about repeatedly. Horseplay, whether it involves compressed air or not, will eventually produce an accident. It's just a matter of time until it happens.
Portable power tools are a large part of our everyday work routine, but as we've seen, if they aren't used correctly or safely, personal injury will result. To protect yourself, remember these key points.
Always choose the right tool for the job and follow the manufacturer's instructions for use. Maintain power tools in a safe condition and always wear the appropriate personal protective equipment for the job. And finally, and possibly the most important, understand how to use the tool correctly and be authorized for each task you undertake.
And really, it's the people that are safety-minded until it becomes inconvenient are the ones that really get hurt, it seems like to me.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, over 20,000 incidents of hand tool injuries occur each year on the job. To prevent these accidents from continuing to happen, we must get a firm grip on portable power tool safety. We can do this by making sure that our commitment to personal safety is an integral part of every job we do. That with every tool we decide to use, we make a separate decision to use it safely. And that our safety sense, our sense of remaining accident-free, is the most important tool that we have in our toolbox.